Books. Okay, this is a call-in show. Today we're talking about books. Books, fucking books. You read a book. Oh my god, dude. I'm not the guy to do this topic. Books? I don't read. I'm one of these guys, I don't even think reading should be taught in schools. That's how much I hate reading. I've read 3 books, maybe 3.5 books ever, all time record, PR, 3. But we're talking about books today. Full transparency today. We're going to be talking about books because a friend of mine wrote a book and he's selling it and I'm buying it. I bought it. I haven't read it. It hasn't arrived yet. So that's my excuse for now. I'll have I gotta make up a whole bunch of excuses why I'm not gonna read for years. I'll read it. Alright, anyway. My friend Thomas Mammoth, who is the guy who does the YouTube channel Mammoth in Space, whom I've collaborated with a few times, a very talented writer. And he's a book reader, as far as I know. And he wrote a book. It's called Ashtray, and I'll just put these little images up here right here. It's called Ashtray. It's got a cover by Slouch and a back cover. We're going to talk more about Ashtray. Thomas will call in at some point here, but just so you know, you can buy this book Ashtray by the YouTuber Thomas Mammoth, aka Mammoth in Space. The link is in the description of this video. Mammoth in .space. You can buy this book Ashtray. Brand new book. Pretty cool. Write a book? Who does that? Actually, I take it back. Pretty cool. Pretty nerdy. Pretty gay. Basically, yeah. You wrote a whole book, bro? What? Okay, anyway. That was my endorsement. But we'll talk more about Ashtray later. This isn't going to be entirely Ashtray focused. We're talking about books. Like I said, I've read 3 books, but I'm open to books. No, I'm not. I'm closed off to books, I have to say. It's too hard. How do people do it? How do you do it? People here are reading books in the chat, in the stream. I mean, seems like a thing that people do. I don't get it. How do you do it? Oh, it's going to be a horrible stream. I can tell already. All right, you guys are going to have to carry this stream because I got just nothing on books. Oh, this is my idea for books. The future of books. Okay. I'm gonna make a book. It got a hardcover. It's a nice book, but it's got pages. It's got like 100 pages, but they're all blank. And you use in the future the AR goggles of the future, and they just project the book's text onto the book's paper. Because, you're going to be missing in the future that tactile feeling of turning the page and holding a book. So this is my book. It's all the books in your digital library projected onto real blank paper. I think it's a great idea. I'm willing to sell this idea for $150, $200. I think it'd be funny just if that was the standard in the future, was that all the books had nothing written in them, because that would be really funny, like in the apocalypse, when all the digital books get erased, and it's like you got all these books lying around, and they're all empty, just a bunch of blank pages. That's like like a Twilight Zone. I have so much time to read, but all the books are blank. Damn you, technocracy! Anyway, that would be if I read books in the first place. Which, maybe by the end of this, someone will convince me that reading is good. I mean, I guess I know in the back of my mind it's good. I can't even. I can't even talk about this. Books. I just know how stupid I am and how stupid I sound. I don't even know what to say about books. Besides, they suck. No. Or do they? Let's find out. Okay, you can call now. Where's this? God, 518-288-7938. Call in, talk about books. You could be pro or anti-book. You could be a book burner in the literal burning sense, or maybe like book burning, like disc burning, like you want to copy books. You want to make books more available. What books do you like? What books? What's a book? What is a book?
Call from
Wade.
Wade, we're talking about books.
Yeah, dude, I got you. What's going on?
Nothing much. What's going on with you?
Well, we got some dude named James McCarthy in the chat, man. I just wanted to bring up my favorite guy,
Okay.
McCarthy. You know McCarthy?
No.
The
Cormac?
type? Yeah. He did the No Country for the Old Men.
Dude, yeah, I remember The Road.
Yeah, The Road. Yeah, they had a shitty movie of The Road, but the book is his most famous. The father and the son, and it's the apocalypse. Got to fill up the bathtub. Fucking fantastic, man.
What do they fill up the bathtub with? What does that mean?
With water, right? So the nuke goes off, and he sees the nuke, so he fills up the bathtub so he can, like, save water. Because now he's got to take his son, and his wife kills herself or something. But it's a great book. So McCarthy, he's got great books. My favorite's Blood Meridian, or The Evening Redness in the West, and it's pretty much this young kid who's like a cowboy, but it's not like, shooting cowboys. It's just how he's starving in the desert. It's super fun stuff, man.
What is it? What is it about these books that you're drawn to them? Are they written well?
Extremely well, yeah.
Okay.
McCarthy just died a couple days ago, but they're
What?
very real. Yeah, dude, rest in peace, right?
Yeah,
I don't know. He had a new one that I haven't read yet, but these books that he writes, they're very true. Like I said, I mean, it's not about, shooting off bullets into the sky and yelling yeehaw. It's like, yeah, man, I'm starving, I'm dehydrated, and these Indians skinned all my friends. Fucked up.
I remember a morning in college, I woke up very hungover and maybe even a little tipsy still, and The Road, the book, was on the coffee table of where I was, and I skimmed through the whole thing. You ever done that with a book?
You skimmed an entire book?
Yeah. I mean, it was riveting. I mean, I wasn't going to read every freaking word, but I got, I got the gist of it. It was good.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, it's great.
You would recommend, though, reading it, though.
Yeah, I'd recommend reading it, but it's kind of hard to get through because he's famous for, like, having run-on sentences for an entire page, which I know you don't know how to read, but, yeah, point being,
that's my strategy when I'm reading. When it gets boring, I just skip to the end of the paragraph, and sometimes I'll just read the first and last sentences of paragraphs.
Shit, you caught me, man. I do that too.
Yeah, all right, cool. So that's a valid thing.
It works, man. You get tired or something. But point being, so it was funny. This guy Jose pulled up last night to the bar. I was with my lady and like our friends, and Jose sits his ass down and like almost knocks me off the booth. And he's like, "Hey, man, can you write something in my book?" I was like, "What are you talking about, Jose?" And he was like, "Well, I'm going to write a book in 5 years, and I want to get the perspective on everyone I meet." So he's got this fat fucking book, and he's just taking down quotes. So I put in a McCarthy quote, which is, let me think here, let me get this right. It says, "War was always there, awaiting its ultimate practitioner. Man came along afterward," right? So it's pretty bleak shit, but...
Did you write that it was
ultimate...
Cormac McCarthy, or does he think that's your perspective?
Jose, he's from fucking California. He didn't read books.
So he's going to put that in his book, but he's going to be plagiarizing Cormac McCarthy.
He's going to be plagiarizing me, plagiarizing McCarthy. Yeah.
Dude, you set him up big time.
Well, dude, I mean, come on. The other quotes in that book, I was like skimming through it just like you do, and it was
Yeah.
like shit from Ricky Bobby. So,
Okay. All right. Hey, thanks for calling in, Wade. Good to hear from you.
yeah, likewise. Have a good one.
All right. Bye-bye. Okay. One reader. A reader on the line. Any more readers out there? Bookheads? Bookworms? 518-288-7938. We're talking about books. I almost read the number of the person calling in.
Call from
I'm Ayn Rand's biggest fan.
Hello? Ayn Rand's biggest fan?
Yep, that's me. How's it going?
It's good. How are you? We're talking books today. You want to talk about Rand?
Yeah, I got my book, my favorite book here. It's Objectivism, the Philosophy of Ayn Rand.
Well, that sounds fun.
Yeah, it is really fun. I hate poor people, so.
Nice. What is that book?
Yeah.
Give us the one paragraph rundown of that,
The-
so we
the
don't have to
one-
read it.
The one, I could read you the back, or I could read you the.
In your own words.
Oh, in my own words. Oh, I haven't read it because I just hate poor people.
Oh, okay. But you plan to read it, or you just have it as a statement against poor people?
No, I mean, like I don't know, was it you who said that you skim through the books? It's kind of me.
Yeah, I like
And
to
this
skim
one,
through.
This one was very enlightening, and it's actually gotten me to very high places. So,
High, like drugs?
no, dude.
What do you mean,
is that
dude?
really what is that really what you're jumping
Are
to?
you smoking weed right now, dude?
No, I'm not. I just woke up. I woke
Okay,
up and
okay.
I saw a notification on my phone that you were doing a call-in show about books, and I wanted to talk about my favorite philosopher,
Take it
Ayn
easy.
Rand,
Take it easy.
and
Take it
how
easy.
much she hates poor people.
Take it easy. Let's
Okay,
let's
I'm
go way
sorry.
back. You don't do drugs.
Okay.
You're straight edge
I'm straight edge.
right now.
Yeah, I'm straight edge right now.
All
I
right.
haven't
So
even touched anything.
what's the philosophy? But the short version. I mean, I know that these books are like, it would take days to just say them all. That's why I don't like
so
them.
there's some bullet points in the front of this book here that says
All right.
reality, sense perception and volition, concept formation, objectivity, reason, man. I don't even know why that one is in there. The good, virtue, happiness,
These are-
government, capitalism, and art.
These are bullet points.
Yeah, these are literally bullet points at the front of the book.
You will find all
Like,
of
I-
these
I-
within these pages.
Yeah, I'm not even. I flip the cover open. It's right there at the front.
All right. Which of those bullet points are you most excited about with this book? Man.
I think concept formation.
What does that even mean?
Okay, well, lately I've been practicing this technique where I go up to a wall, I put my hand on it, and I visualize everything going on the inside. And
Inside the
I've been
wall?
doing that to yeah, so like you put your hands up against the wall, right?
I'm right.
Like
I'm right
both
at a
hands.
wall right here. I'll do it right now.
All right, do it. So put your hands against the wall,
Okay.
close your eyes,
Mhm.
and what you want to do is you want to visualize all the sound in that other room. Let all that sound go into your hands, go through your body, go to your mind. You can see everything that's going on. I've been doing that to girls' locker rooms for years, man.
Oh, dude.
It is so sweet.
So a book, it makes your imagination. It builds your imagination powers, so you can do that.
That one is a favorite of mine. Same with the Egyptian Book of the Dead. This is a really good one.
What does that do? What does that do to
This
girls'
one
locker
actually-
rooms?
Okay, so Ayn Rand's concept formation, that got me on that. Egyptian Book of the Dead has been teaching me some pretty ancient dark rituals for magic and shit.
For Magic the Gathering?
No, dude. Dude, I'm practicing to be a warlock, man.
For what? What are you gonna do? What's the end goal?
Dude, what you don't want to do? Okay, you don't want to put your hands against the wall and imagine a bunch of naked girls in a locker room.
I
Come
just
on,
did
dude.
that. That was fine, but I didn't need any powers for it. I didn't even need to read your freaking book.
Are you serious?
I did. Well, I'm just saying those things. I can make my brain imagine those things.
Yeah, I think you're lying to me.
All right, dude, whatever, dude. I'm glad that you're gonna be a warlock for whatever reason, but just don't.
I'm gonna be a warlock practicing witchcraft and fucking spells and potions, and you're gonna be here
Just
not
imagining.
doing magic.
All right. Well, thank you for calling in. It's good to hear from you.
Well, thank you for taking my call. I hate poor people.
Okay. Don't we all?
Call from
Clarence!
Clarence, we're talking books.
Hey, dude, what's up?
You're always so chipper, Clarence.
Yeah, I got something to say about books. I love books, man.
Okay.
First, here's a life pro tip. Have you ever heard of a book of shadows?
No.
Well, like that last guy was saying, warlocks and wizards and such, they each have their own book of shadows, right? And it's basically spells that they invented and like wrote down, you know. It's like a journal for like what spells work. And anyway, I found a book of shadows a few years ago, and here's a life hack. There's a spell you can cast that helps with financial health. It's the money spell. Yeah, you want to know how to do it?
Yes.
Okay, here's what you do. You get a green ribbon, and you get a piece of bread. Doesn't matter, white bread, wheat bread, doesn't matter. You nail it to the front door of your home, and you chant, money, 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 money. and then it just works. And then once the bread goes stale and rotten, you just take it out and do it again, and bam. I did that. My stocks popped off. Yeah.
Wow.
I found a quarter.
That sounds a lot easier than I was expecting. It wasn't like
it's pretty easy. You should try it.
I didn't have to like learn some ancient language or something. So the spells, like, was it updated for modern times, or were the warlocks of yore just really forward thinking?
Yeah, I don't know. I think that one came around when sliced bread came around.
Oh yeah. Oh,
but
true.
there's one caveat, one condition. The head of the household, I don't know where you live, I don't know if you're head of household or whatever, but the head of the household has to be okay with it. If they're not okay with it, then the spell won't work.
Why wouldn't they be okay with it? Because they're anti-magic?
Yeah, anti-magic, anti-cult.
Do you ever...
They hold no truck with what's name?
What?
Sorry. There is something else I want to say about books. Have you heard the expression, you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with?
No.
Well,
I just heard it now.
it's an expression. I don't know who said it.
Okay.
It's like some psychologist said that a while ago. But you get what it means. It's like who you spend time with kind of distills into you, you know?
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, so when you read, you know, you pick up a book, you might be reading that book for a week or a month, right? That becomes kind of another person that you're spending time with. So you're kind of broadening, you know, yourself in a way.
Because all I've been doing the past couple weeks is like watching Shark Tank and Dirty Jobs. So I think I've become really stupid.
Well, if anyone needs a sewer unplugged, do you think you're up to the task? I mean,
yeah, I could get all mucked up and make smart aleck comments to the camera.
It's really not that hard. They're not even doing the job. They're just acting like they're doing the job.
Is there any other book you'd recommend as something that's good to be one of the 5 people you're around, or is it strictly spells?
Well, I don't think it matters what you're reading as long as you're reading something. I mean, some of my favorite authors, I love Brandon Sanderson. I love Neil Gaiman. Patrick Rothfuss is an amazing author, but he also is the worst author at the same time because he just can't get his shit together.
So some of those I recognize as like fantasy type things.
Yeah, I read a lot of fantasy, sci-fi. I read Dune before it was cool. I love Discworld. Discworld's pretty funny.
So you think just that's it doesn't matter what you read as long as you've got something that's helping you expand.
Yeah. I heard this quote again.
There's a Shark Tank book.
I have no idea where this came from.
Oh, yeah, what?
There's a Shark Tank book?
Yeah, they were just advertising it on Shark Tank. That's how I know about it. Anyway, go on.
We'll get that. Maybe
what's another quote?
You'll become a millionaire investor.
What's your quote?
Oh, yeah, right. Reading is to the mind what exercise is to the body.
Oh.
So it keeps you active, it keeps you thinking, keeps you awake.
Do you do audiobooks, or are you you really read?
I prefer actually reading, but I have listened to some good audiobooks. There's actually, have you ever heard of a company called Graphic Audio?
No.
Well, they take audiobooks to the next level. Instead of just like some old guy reading it, it's like it's got music, it's got sound effects, it's got like a fully voiced cast, like a dedicated narrator. And I listened to the Store My Archive books through Graphic Audio. It was awesome, dude. It was great.
Sounds cool. All right. Well, thanks for calling.
Yeah, you take it easy. I got to get back to work. Bye.
All right, bye. 518-288-7938. We're talking about books. We are talking about books, and we are moving right along to the next caller.
Call from
Allie.
Allie.
What's going on?
Good to hear from you again.
Yeah, is the connection fucked up for you?
No. I mean, you sound like a lifelong smoker, but that might just be your voice.
Yeah. I'm toking all the time. Wait, do you toke cigarettes?
I've been vaping lately, but I go back and forth.
Nice.
We're talking books today. You
yes,
a booker?
Yes, I have. Yes, I read a lot of books. I read a lot. I've got some suggestions. The weirdest book I'm reading right now is called, well, it's really a trilogy. It's called Illuminatus. You heard of this?
No.
It's basically, I don't know how to describe it. It was written in like the 70s, I think. Mm-hmm. And it's basically set in a world where all the conspiracy theories are true simultaneously. Mm. It is off the walls, insane. It's got the best character names I've ever heard in a book. I'm just going to read you a few of them.
Sure.
Sarsaparilla Godzilla. They got Don Frederica Banana Nose Maldonado. They got Dr. Charles Soapy Montenegro. They got Rosetta the Stoned. They got Howard the Dolphin, who is actually a dolphin that can talk. Judge Quasimodo Imhotep. I could keep going, but
like
there's plenty of good ones.
Mashup names.
Yeah.
So does it takes place in the what we see as the regular world, but there's a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes, or is it like a totally different version of it?
Basically it's like, I mean, and you keep thinking you know what's going on, and then it completely drops out from under you. It's got a great audiobook version, but I'm just reading it right now. But basically, it's written in kind of the postmodern style. It's jumping from character to character, perspective to perspective, jumping around in time a lot. But you start to get the vibe of what's going on, at least, and kind of like there's a bunch of secret societies that are all at war. But it's just off the wall hilarious. It'll randomly cut into like a weird sex scene. Then it'll get really dark. It's just completely unpredictable, but it's been fun as hell to read. I would highly recommend it for people that haven't. I wish it got more people talking about it because it's fun.
Is Howard the Dolphin having sex in this book?
I think they do touch on that actually, just dolphin attitude towards sex. But the spoilers a little, but one of the characters goes to Atlantis. And Howard saves their ass because they did not go to Atlantis at the right time. But the dolphins are way smarter than humans in this book. Like they're pretty enlightened.
So do you like
just sense like the 70s counterculture in this book? It's very of its time. Lots of LSD involved, I'm sure, in the writing.
You prefer like a funny book like that one?
I mean, yeah, I don't know. I've always been attracted to these kind of books, like long and kind of wild all over the place. But I don't know if I'd call it funny necessarily. I mean, it's.
You said it was hilarious.
It is hilarious, but it's also dark at times, and there's actually more going on. It's. I don't know. I just like books with depth to them. You know, I've never been big on like the just goofy, like not like. What is
like an example of what do you think is an example of like a book that's trying to be funny but actually doesn't really have much going on?
I don't don't know.
You
don't
avoid
know.
them. You
Maybe
don't know.
funny is not the right word, but predictable. I like to be surprised when I'm reading something. You know, like I just think of the books my mom reads. No shade on my mom, and she reads like Jodi Picoult and like I don't know, like these just like mom books. You know what I mean?
Kind of like
and
just
I'm
the
I
ultra
just
sad stories. The real
and you kind
heartstring.
It's like a Hallmark movie, you know. That's kind of how I think of it. It's like I just like when I like experimentation, you know. I mean, you've read the stuff I write, and that's kind of how I you know. I don't know. But everybody has different tastes, though, you know. So I don't know.
It seems like the sort of book like the one you're describing, the Illuminatus book. Like you get the benefit in that of. There's never ever gonna be like a movie or a TV series that's gonna be as crazy as that.
Yeah. No, there's a few writers like that I would love to see somebody try to adapt to like a show, but it's so hard. Like a great example is Pinch Hitting's one example. There's been only a few attempts to do him.
What?
But then
who is it?
Pynchon, you know, who wrote Gravity's Rainbow, Inherent Vice. I think that was him. I'm trying to think of.
I really like that Inherent Vice movie. I thought that was really good.
Yeah, exactly. But those books are so hard to make, especially the big ones. It's just like Gravity's Rainbow would probably have to be like a 12-hour movie. You know?
God, yeah.
Like I've always really, really wanted somebody to take a good stab at making a Murakami movie, Haruki Murakami. I don't know if you've read him, but his books would make incredible movies, but they would take a lot of work.
I saw a movie that was based on a short story by him, I think. It's called Burning.
Yes, there's pretty much all of the Barn Burning. Yeah, that was a short story. He writes great short stories, but I just feel like the only attempts I've seen of his stuff being adapted, it's of his short stories, because even his short stories have enough going on to make a whole thing out of it. You know, but like Wind Up Bird Chronicle is probably one of my favorite books of all time. And that book, like there's some scenes in it that I can just imagine like a good director, like just doing so much with, but without spoiling anything. But there's also some scenes in the book that really only work as a book. You know, there's some, I guess what I'm trying to say is there's some books that you can't really adapt, or at least it would be very hard to adapt. I can't spoil it with Wind Up Bird, but you know, especially when it's a lot of stuff happening in like a character's inner monologue. Like I think books kind of win in that type of storytelling. You know.
Do you think that people imagine books like in a really different way than they used to imagine them before movies existed?
Yeah, I thought about that. Just, I don't know. I think our attention spans have gotten a lot shorter. I mean, I'm college now as an older student, and I'm just seeing a difference just between me and the younger students, you know, just in terms of how long they can go in class without looking at their phone, you know. And so I'm just thinking of, you know, back before movies, like theater, you know, like the stuff that people would sit and watch. Like, I think people were a lot more patient back then, you know, like,
but
I don't know, you just go.
I wonder, like, if because while you're reading, you're visualizing, and it's like, we're all so familiar with movies. You hear a lot of people when they're reading a book, it's like you can visualize this scene as a movie scene. So it's like, before movies existed, how did people visualize what they were reading? Would they think of it like plays or like what? Like, I mean, that's how when I'm reading, I always think of it as a movie basically playing out in my head.
Yeah, I think those things have really colored our consciousness. Like, one other good example is video games. Like, I don't know about you, but my dreams are often in the form of a video game.
Yeah,
I just think there's something about video games that really complements dreams. Like, and so I'm just imagining before video games, what people's dreams were like was probably closer to real life, I'm guessing. But I don't know. It is weird. Like, I guess we can't really go back and ask anybody. We could go to, I mean, I guess anthropologists could ask somebody that's not been exposed to like movies, but
yeah, that could be they have those YouTube videos like Ancient
Yeah,
tribe
yeah.
eats cheese, eats McDonald's for the first time.
Oh my God, yeah, 10,000 views. I mean, there are some really isolated, but there's not a whole lot left, that just have not been exposed to that stuff. I mean, I guess there's like the Amish, and then there's some like tribes out in the middle of the rainforest.
Oh yeah, the Amish.
But
The Amish must be avid
yeah.
readers, right?
Yeah.
I don't know any
I don't
Amish,
know.
but like, what else
Well,
are they doing besides building and shit?
I mean, writing. I mean, I don't know. Like the idea of books hasn't even been around too long. I mean, I don't know. I'm interested in Buddhism, and Buddhist stuff was only written down like hundreds of years after the Buddha. For a long time, it was just transmitted orally because they just didn't have books, so they would just chant it, and that's how they remembered it. So I mean, the printing press and stuff like that obviously made a huge difference.
True.
But I don't know. But anyways.
Well, very
yeah.
cool. Thank you for calling in, Allie. Good to hear from you.
No problem. Good to talk to you.
All right, have a good one. Oh, I thought that was gonna get this next one. All right, 518-288-7938. We're talking books. We are talking books. I'm getting into it. I'm starting to think about books. Maybe they're not so bad.
Call from
Chris, hello.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. How are you?
I'm good.
We're talking books today. Are you a book person?
Well, when I was a kid, I read like a million Stephen King books, and then I started reading other stuff as I got older.
Mm-hmm.
What? And yeah, I had one interesting, possibly book anecdote.
Sure.
I was pretty recently in college, even though I'm in my 30s, and the class, the last guest was talking about Buddhism, and we talked a bit about Taoism and Buddhism and stuff in the course of the class. And what I didn't understand was how are they different? Well, I know it's stupid and kind of naive, but like, what do Taoists believe that Buddhists are like, that's fucking dumb. Like, Taoism is go with the flow is one way to put an aspect of what they believe. Do Buddhists think you shouldn't go with the flow? That's a bad idea. Never go with the flow. I think so. So I ended up trying to write a paper about the difference between Buddhism and Taoism. I had to track down this rare book I came across, which is writings of, also like a research book summarizing times when Buddhism and Taoism were, of course, in the same place at the same time in ancient China, and the arguments they had trying to gain favor in the court and show that their religion was the right one, the other one was false, which could point out some ways in which they differ. There isn't really a great punchline to this story, but I saw some interesting stuff in the book, and long story short, I was unable, believe it or not, as a white guy who's never grown up anywhere near these religions, to truly effectively suss out exactly the point of Buddhism and Taoism, how they differ, and wrap it all up into a nice paper, but I tried.
So how long was the paper just, it's the same shit, different name. 2 sentences.
What I ended up doing is that pathetic thing that writers end up doing sometimes, which
You're
is
probably wondering how I got here.
exactly.
That's like the beginning of a movie.
Instead of writing the thing you're supposed to write, you end up writing about the journey of you writing it.
Yeah. That was a fun part of school.
Media in the past. One of my favorite movies, Adaptation by Charlie Kaufman, is exactly that, but it came out really good.
What? Adaptation?
Yeah, you ever heard of that one?
Yeah, that is like taking that concept as far as it will go.
Yes, yeah. And I think after that movie, you probably don't really need to do the same. It's already been done.
What do you think about books being adapted into movies? Is it good? Is it something? Is it never gonna work? Everyone that's always ever in the history of the world has said it's not as good as the book when the movie comes out.
Well, there's exceptions to that. I mean, first off, just to answer the question, many of the best movies of all time were adapted from books. Many of the
Passion of the
most
Christ.
beloved. Exactly. I was going to say that one. I had
The best.
And I don't even have a second example. But a couple examples of ones I would say are better than the book. You've got The Shawshank Redemption. That was a novella by Stephen King that was pretty good, but it's not even particularly long. Most of the stuff that happens in the movie that's cool doesn't even happen in the book. Same thing with The Green Mile. I would argue The Green Mile movie was even better than the book.
Dude, there's so
Probably a lot
many
of
Stephen King movies.
Well, yeah, that's probably what I'm an expert on because I read so much of this fucking stupid ass book.
Hey, you know what I just rewatched a couple days ago? The Dead Zone.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I like
You know
it.
what's funny? I first came across that movie, and there is a Dead Zone that has nothing to do with the Stephen King book. I started watching that movie. I was so confused. Al Pacino one. That's not about his book.
What I was confused about with the Dead Zone was I was confused at what the Dead Zone was. I thought the Dead Zone was where Christopher Walken went in his coma, and then he was like halfway between the Dead Zone and the Life Zone. But there was just like the Dead Zone was just like it was some other thing. It was like I couldn't see the future entirely. There was a Dead Zone. I was like, oh, that's the Dead Zone.
I haven't brushed up on my Dead Zone in a while, so I can't.
I just watched it.
Huh?
Hey, what about Creep Show?
Yeah, that was cool. You know, I watched it when I was a kid, and my dad loved all sorts of campy movies like that. And when you rewatch it now, it's unbelievably aged, let's say, but it's still charming.
It's definitely not
cool.
scary, but it is charming.
Yes, I like that serialized version of filmmaking sometimes when maybe the thing that you're watching, the part of the movie that you're watching isn't that great, but you know in 10 minutes it'll be the next story. Ooh.
That is true. So what's the number one, I'm sorry to just zone in on Stephen King, but I'm just going to do it. What's the number one Stephen King literature you've read?
I mean,
because I'm amazed. There's so many. I've never read Stephen King in my life, but I've seen so many movie adaptations and TV adaptations.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you've got. I think like the fan favorite answer that people would like me to say would be The Stand. It's this incredibly long book that's so interwoven with all these different stories that come together into this epic plot. And a lot of his books, including The Stand, have certain characters and themes. It's all part of one big universe. So if you get into that Stephen King Dark Tower universe, it becomes satisfying to read some of the best versions of that. I have a weird answer. My answer might be The Wind Through the Keyhole, which is an optional book in the Dark Tower series, meaning he wrote the whole series, and then he wrote this book that would fit between like books 3 and book 4. My friend read this by chance at his school library, having never read The Dark Tower, and thought it was incredible. And I agree that I think it's a really exceptional, cool, standalone story that, yes, technically is in the Dark Tower series, but it's like a story within a story within a story, just within the one book, and it's got such creative stuff in it. I really like that book.
All right. Well, thank you for calling in and for your recs and opinions.
You're welcome, man. Have a great day.
All right, you too. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Whoops. All right, we're going to take a quick break. We will be back in like 5 minutes here, 4 minutes. All the music from this stream is from Nobey One. Also a YouTube guy, but he's got a Bandcamp. You can click on the link in the description of this video to listen to this album. This is all from Rest Stop Passing Through, album by Nobey One. All right, we'll be back in 4 minutes to talk more about book. Okay, we're back. We're talking books today. Books. You can call in now, 518-288-7938. Talk to me about books. Do you love books? Do you hate books? Do you write books? Do you read books? What is a book? What counts as a book exactly? There are notebooks.
Call from
Is that a book?
Nikolai.
Nikolai, hello. We're talking about books.
Hey, what's up, man? How are you?
It's good to hear from you. I'm good. How are you?
I'm pretty dandy, thanks.
Oh.
Books.
Yeah.
Well, you're talking about adaptations for movies and stuff, and that's very relevant to what I'm reading right now. I'm reading the Lord of the Rings series, which is phenomenal. Are you a fan at all?
No. I'm not a fan, but I've never read them. I remember trying to read The Hobbit when I was a little boy, and I got like 10 pages in, and that was that.
You ever saw Lord of the Rings movies?
I started watching, like, my friends are doing like a super extended cut Lord of the Rings day where it's like 15 hours and shit. I got through like the first 4 hours, and I was into it.
Oh my god!
But I had to do other things.
What's wrong with you, man?
I had other things.
It's a journey. It's one of the most fantastic journeys ever. It's
So
I'm surprised.
How do the movies compare to the books?
Well, what's funny is they obviously have to change stuff because they have to fit in. Back then, movies could only be an hour and a half long, where movies now are like 2.5 hours long. But they had to cut a lot of stuff.
Dude, there's no Lord of the Rings movie that's an hour and a half long. That's a lie.
Well, that was the theatrical cut. All right, there's a theatrical cut, and there's extended editions.
Okay.
The extended editions are the ones that are like 4 hours long, which is great. But they had to cut out a bunch of stuff and adapt a bunch of stuff. But the Lord of the Rings movies, honestly, movies can really fuck up the books. And the stuff that they did change, actually, a lot of it some of it kind of sucked and some of it kind of helped. Like it improved upon some of the stuff. But with adaptations, I would argue the Lord of the Rings is one of the best movie series ever, but one of the best adaptations ever.
What does it for you? This epic is the sense of the epic adventure. Is it the lore? Is it the characters? What is it?
It's a comfy journey, man. It's just just sit back, relax, and just enjoy the journey. There's nothing. It's just good. There's nothing. It's just a good thing. That's all it is. It's just a good, pleasant. It's like sitting down at the pub and eating a shepherd's pie and having a Guinness. Like it's like a good, nice, comfortable experience.
What do you find relatable about it? Because this is like it's a whole it's a different world. It's a fantasy experience. So what do you find relatable about it that makes you able to connect with it?
Well, I'm actually trying to connect with another book right now. You might have heard of it. It's called the Bible.
Oh shit!
Yeah. I actually haven't been listening to the whole stream. I heard someone talking about Taoist stuff. That's when I tuned in. But as I'm listening to Lord of the Rings, I'm doing audiobooks, by the way. I can't sit down and read a book. If you struggle with that, get audiobooks. It's like a billion times better. Just fucking drive around on your commute and listen to shit.
Okay.
But the Bible, I'm doing it. It's called The Bible in a Year. And I'm on my spiritual journey trying to figure that shit out. Develop a relationship
which is
with God.
better so far, The Lord of the Rings or the Bible?
The Lord of the Rings is definitely more exciting. I'm on day 111 of Bible in the Year, and I'm on.
How deep in?
What is it? King David just cut off 200 foreskins of the Philistines and delivered them to King Saul.
Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
I don't know. The whole foreskin thing is very confusing. That's one of my things I'm wrestling with, trying to understand. It's even the guy that's in the Bible of the Year. He's kind of, you do a section of the Bible and then he kind of describes and tries to understand it.
even him with the foreskin stuff, he's like, yeah, man, I don't know. I don't know.
Has there ever been like a Bible guide that's like got I'm thinking like a fantasy lore tracker where it's like got all the characters and there's like you can see all of them like foreskin status and other things too, but just like is there a comprehensive? Cause I feel like the Bible is so long, you know. Like I need to keep flipping back to some footnotes or something. I got to understand all the context.
Well, I mean, that's why you need to, you know. I've never just sat through and read the whole Bible. I've identified as a Christian, but it seems kind of asinine to like identify as a Christian and not read the thing that defines being a Christian.
Right. You want to be able to whip out some Bible quotes every now and then.
You feel like a phony. But
is reading the Bible making it better or worse to be Christian?
I mean, I figure it's going to add meaning and purpose to my life. I don't know, man. I'm just trying to stay alive and just make some sense of anything. Life is very confusing and strange. And I don't know. I figure, hey, I'll finish it, and then I'll be filled with purpose and meaning and something. I don't know. It's a nice journey. Again, it's a journey. Especially the Old Testament stuff. A lot of it sounds like goobly-gook, but there's good stuff in there. There's some. Yeah. Go ahead.
Is there a Frodo equivalent?
Well, I'm waiting for this Jesus guy to show up. They really hype this guy up, and I'm still on the Old Testament and still waiting for the J-Man.
So maybe there's been some parts that have added confusion. Tell us what's a part that's given you clarity?
Well, there was a part about. Okay, I'll tell you. Like I said, I'm on the part with King Saul and his vanity, and he is supposed to. There's Samuel. Samuel's like, I think he's a prophet, and God says that he has to go slay all these Philistines or whatever, this tribe, whatever the hell, and slay them all, kill them all, destroy them all, everything about them. Yeah. And then Saul, who's vain, is flawed because he cares too much about what people think about him. And instead of destroying everything, killing everything like God wants, he takes a bunch of the cattle, the sheep, goats, whatever. And Samuel's like, dude, what the fuck? God said kill it all. And Saul's like, nah, man, we can totally sacrifice them as offerings to God. He'll totally dig that. And they took all the goats and sheep and cattle and all that because the people that conquered them wanted that. They wanted that to take it as prize and trophies. And Saul was like, okay, if you guys like me, that's cool. But, and then he makes the excuse. He says, well, we're going to sacrifice him, right? Totally. And Samuel kind of says, that's not really what's going to make God happy. What's going to make God happy is that you actually, to do what he asks of you. And so it's kind of one of those things where we make our lives harder. I've been thinking about getting married and, just kind of messing around and not doing it. And I'm making my life harder by doing, instead of doing the thing that's hard, like getting married or killing a whole bunch of goats, I live alone and I, cook my own dinner, and after work, I got to go grocery shopping and I got to do everything on my own. It's just, instead of making a commitment and, kind of fulfilling God's will by starting a family, I'm like, oh, I'll just fuck off and play video games and drink beer and not, so it's like you're making your life harder by not fulfilling God's plan. And so that's something meaningful that I've gotten recently.
You feel like what you're doing in your life is analogous in a way where is your life have to do with making other people like you by being not married? Is that?
I mean, it's scary. It's scary to get married, man. It's terrifying. But
It's more serving yourself than other people, with other people's opinions of you.
I mean, you just, what I would say is to live by yourself, and it's like I feel like I'm being an eternal child. Like it's like, oh great, I don't have no responsibility, nobody depends on me, I don't have to worry about anything. But life is actually a lot harder that way because there's very little purpose. There's very little meaning to doing that. Yeah, it's comfortable. It's nice. I don't have to worry about, keeping my job so I can feed my kids and provide for my family and all that stuff. But, when I come home each day and just kind of drink beer and play video games, at the end of the night, I'm kind of sat there and thinking, okay, what was that for? What was the purpose of that? And then each week is just kind of just get through the week. So the weekends, you don't have to worry about getting too banged up, and then you can sleep in.
Then you get those dangerous questions like, well, why even get up tomorrow?
I don't want to die. I just would like more meaning. And the fear, of course, of having children and a family and all that is the responsibility of that. You're a leader. You're the head of the household. You're a mentor. You got fear of like, what if I do something and fuck up the kids and now they got PTSD, or I drank too much and said something, all that stuff. But the fulfillment and purpose and meaning that you can derive from a family and growing that, I think, is a lot more fulfilling than drinking and playing video games. And so what my thing is it's scary and hard to commit to something like that. But by not doing that, I'm just making myself, have a harder life by, there's no support system. I just kind of come home to avoid. There's nobody to make, to go grocery shopping while you're at work. And that's a very important thing, because no one fucking likes to go to the grocery store and cook dinner after a work day. I can guarantee that. I don't know if you relate to that at all or connect to that.
I certainly do. Absolutely. You gotta, min-max these things. When you're living alone, you min-max by just eating, sandwiches and mac and cheese.
Yeah, you're limping through life. You're not living. You're moving.
Good
going.
Book title. Limping Through Life.
Oh, Limping Through Life by Nikolai. Yeah,
you could fuse the best elements of the Lord of the Rings and the Bible and your personal life.
I think actually there were some things Bible that transferred over to the Lord of the Rings. I'm not
right. I was gonna say J.K. Rowling, famous author of Lord of the Rings. J.R.R. Tolkien, famous Christian, right?
Tolkien, yeah.
Tolkien.
Dude, I'm listening to the 90s version of Lord of the Rings read by Rob Ingalls, I think it is. And it's kind of funny listening to it. Dude, listen to audiobooks. It's way better to sit down and read the book, I swear to God. Just while you're driving around. But it's kind of funny, all the voices. I feel like everybody that did the Lord of the Rings movie trilogy listened to this audiobook and kind of stole the voices. Like Andy Serkis that did Smeagol. Sounds exactly like 90s book Smeagol.
I see.
But yeah, man, it's I don't know, do you drive around? Do you have a long commute or anything like that?
I don't have a car anymore. I sold it.
Oh my God.
Yeah, dude.
Tough times.
I'm grounded.
Tough times in the minute hour.
Hey, but thanks for calling in. Good to hear from you.
No problem, man. Good luck with your life or whatever.
Hey, you too.
Thanks
you
for.
Too.
Thank
I hope
you
get married very soon.
It will happen at some point. I will trick myself into thinking it's a good idea, and hopefully it is. But have a good evening.
All right,
Bye.
you too, buddy. Bye.
Call from
Thomas.
Mr. Minute, how are we doing?
Thomas Mammoth, frequent caller. We've all heard Thomas before. But today is a special day.
I'm a huge fan of the call-in show. I call in all the fucking time.
Today is a special day.
Yes, it is.
You've just written a book, and you're self-publishing it.
I did do both of those things.
And you're not just having it's not like an Amazon digital, you can download the book. There are printed copies. It's a real thing.
There are printed copies. It's a real thing. I have a copy in front of me right now. And you can buy a copy for yourself at mammoth.space, and it's up for pre-order. I'll basically ship them out as soon as I fucking get them. There's a big shipment of them coming to my apartment this week.
Mammoth.space, and the link to that is in the description of this video if it's too difficult to type that in. So, what prompted you to write a book, Thomas?
Unlike yourself, I do read a lot, and I do dig reading quite a bit. And I think
there's nothing wrong with that.
Something, yes, which I want to take a little issue with you here. Let me answer your question first.
Okay.
I fucking, I feel like I've always kind of wanted to write a book forever and have attempted in various ways that, I never really took it that seriously though. And then a fucking friend of mine hit me up and was like, yeah, I'm working on this nonfiction book about architecture. And in my head, we were just having this conversation. I'm like, this fucking idiot is writing a book. What the fuck am I doing? Why can't I do this? And so that, literally the next day, I started writing this book. And that was a year and a half ago now.
So what prompted you to write it was a mix of jealousy and feeling of superiority.
Yeah, just almost a feeling of inferiority. Like this fucking idiot.
This
is
guy's
putting
writing
me
a
to shame.
book. I haven't even written a book.
And he's a dummy.
Do you hope to inspire people in kind, where people will be like, Thomas Mammoth is writing a book. Why can't I fucking write a book?
Kind of. I feel like if somebody as stupid as me did it, then yeah, fucking, go for it.
So what was the process like? Is it just you got mad one night and you just sit down and you're like, all right, well, here we go, I'm gonna start? Or is it something you gotta map out, or do you just start typing?
So I think in my particular case, it was more of the former, where it was I got mad and then I just was like, we're doing this, and then I just started writing. And in hindsight, or I guess I've started writing something new. I'm going with a little bit more of let's plan a little bit of this, because this one was very much stream of consciousness, I guess. But it had been ideas that I've had floating around my head for a while. But it was sort of just a let's go kind of thing.
You want to tell us a little bit, give us a little taste of what the book is about?
Yeah, sure. It's about a guy who's, in the, I guess, mid to post-apocalypse, where basically everybody is gone. So he's just fully alone in a city that's kind of still functioning, kind of not, because AI has sort of taken over everything in this universe.
So there's a lot of automated systems that he can still take advantage of?
Exactly. And they're slowly collapsing, and there are sort of natural disasters occurring at all times. So things are fucked, but the electricity still kind of works, So he's able to do shit and fuck off a little bit and have some amount of fun. When describing this to another person, they were like, "Oh, is it kind of like The Road?" And I just want to say it's not like The Road, because you guys were talking about The Road earlier as well. Think of it more of the people who have read it have said it's more of a post-apocalyptic slice of life. And I think that's probably more fitting, just if you like sort of dark, cynical humor, and it's kind of bleak, as The Road is also bleak, but it's more of just a dark comedy, I think. Yeah.
Do you think there's a philosophy that you're presenting through this character, or is this more just about the setting? Is it more about the setting or the character?
It's more about the character, certainly. I will
their
read. Let me
psychology?
read the back. We chose a back cover quotation that Slouch hand wrote in there, and I'm gonna just read that because I think that's we chose it for the back cover because it's fucking illustrative of the book, and it reads. As I began my trek, my caffeine high had me feeling optimistic. After I counted 49 steps, I thought about killing myself. And that's the back cover quote. So if that intrigues you, you know, I'd say pick yourself up a copy of this fucking book.
Tasty. This
I
book
worked
is
real hard on it.
It's called Ashtray, and it does have a cover and back cover by Slouch, who we all know. And it's a beautiful front and back
Yes.
cover.
Who also did the Collins stream fucking background.
Yeah, that you're looking at right now. Everything on the screen right now is because of Slouch.
It's fucking Slouch.
Thank God for Slouch.
Yeah, shout out to Slouch. What a fucking legend.
So for this book, like, I haven't read it yet. I've ordered my pre-order copy, but what I'm gathering is that, you know, we're not going to have to dissect a lot of complex lore or anything. This is going to be a book that's relatable to someone in the now, even though it takes place in the perhaps near future.
Yeah, I think so. There's not a lot of world building that goes on in the book. It's very much like you're with this guy, you're in his head. Yeah. There's not a lot of lore.
How did you know when you're writing a book like this and this subject matter and also the way that you wrote it, where it sort of sounds like you're doing a stream of consciousness and plowing right through it. How do you know when it's done?
Fuck, I mean, that's a good question. I feel like I got to a point where I was like, I've said a lot of the things that I have sort of set out to say, and it's like there's always a thing of like you could keep writing at it and fucking with it, and I think I did. I think I went past that point, and then I like went back and just like cut the ending and was like, yeah, it actually ends like here. But I think that's just like, I think with videos, it's a similar thing. I imagine you've experienced where it's like, there's always the opportunity or option to be like, is it over? I don't know. And so I've been toying with the idea of a sequel. The story can continue. But I decided, I feel like you just kind of make the decision to be like, it's done. It's not like a sign from God.
So then how different are these processes? Like with, you know, you're making videos, but you also write the videos. Like the videos that I've worked with you send me like a whole script. And so there is a very clear writing element of it. What is the difference? How does it feel different? Do you have a preference for one over the other?
I guess the difference is writing a book. I'm able to do so many things that I'm not able to do when writing a video script, right? Because when you're writing the video script, like you're doing some descriptive stuff, but that's just to like set the scene a little. It's like you're mostly just focused on what's actually said, the dialogue.
And you've probably got it in your head the whole time, like, I need to write something that I can actually film.
Correct. Yeah, you're like constrained by reality. Whereas this, I'm just able to be a lot more free, and it's like you're able to just like let bits run or like do jokes that like, oh, I would never be able to do this. So it's like, why even kind of go down this thought rabbit hole for a video? And then because I let myself do that, you find things that you would have just never found. I wrote stuff for the book that I loved so much that I like tried to almost adapt my own shit into. I'd be like, oh, well, this could work for a video script, couldn't it? And every time I'd like try to adapt my own thing into a video, it just did not work. And I was just like, okay, well, I guess it just stays in the book, you know? So yeah, and it was a lot of fun to just write stuff that like didn't have to be just me and Eric, because that's also just like another constraint, right?
Right. So, what do you think?
Now, I got a question for you.
Okay,
Hold
sure.
on. Hold the fuck on. So I watched this movie. It's a very good movie, and I watched it because of you. And I think it's one of your favorite movies, if I'm not mistaken.
I think I know what you're going to say.
And it's called Mishima.
Yes.
It's a biopic about Yukio Mishima, a fantastic author. And then when I asked you about it, you're like, yeah, I actually haven't read any Yukio Mishima.
I haven't, to this day. I bought some of his books just to support the estate, I guess. Never read a book.
The like Japanese fascists that still are supporting him.
I mean, I think, it's just such an interesting, it's like the meta story that makes Mishima for me. It's like you got this Japanese author who is, in real life, this is a real life story, he tried to stage a military coup against democratic Japan and reinstate imperialism because of, the spirit of imperialism and like he's a legit fascist
samurai
imperialist.
honor.
Yeah, he's a samurai guy.
Yes.
It's a crazy movie because it compares and contrasts his short stories and novellas, which are represented through they're done in a cinematic way, but they're kind of like they're presented in an unreal way with like these kind of theatrical sets and stuff. Yeah.
Yes.
But in real life, this was a guy in the 1980s who tried to take over Japan with his private army. That's crazy. That's awesome. I wish more crazy shit was happening like that. It is awesome. Even if they're crazy people. What's the question? Should I read Mishima? Probably.
You should read Mishima. Some of the coolest parts of that movie are those stylized interpretations of his books.
So what have you read of him?
I've read Temple of the Golden Pavilion, which is in that movie.
Yeah, it is.
I've read The Sailor Who Fell from Grace with the Sea. I've read The Frolic of the Beasts. I've read Life for Sale, which is a really popular one. I've read The Sound of the Waves.
So what's your take on Mishima as a man and author? We know his real life story is that he's a bit psycho. I don't want to say full on psycho, but it's obviously a bit psychotic to think that you're going to take over like your country. So what's
really
your
surprising
interpretation
about him?
Yeah.
Is he's clearly like this like samurai honor bound fucking masculine guy, or he became that later in life. And so that was the context that I sort of went into Mishima with. And then his writing is like so beautiful and like ornate and like surreal, and he's writing about love and all these like really beautiful themes, and he'll even write about like depression in really beautiful ways. And it's just like, God damn, this man has a fucking soft side, in a way that he's like emotionally tapped in, and in a way that you would not expect this guy who's like about fucking imperialism and fascism to be,
He truly commands his own private army, which, it's entirely his work that brings this private army into existence. The spirit of the samurai is strong with him. And yet he's writing like poetic, beautiful books.
And it's like, it's not even just a little beautiful. It's like so beautiful that it's just like he's holding the two greatest extremes. And that's what I think makes him so interesting as a person, and why he was such like a good documentary subject guy.
Mm-hmm.
But shout out to my favorite authors are Haruki Murakami and probably Thomas Pynchon. I want to just shout out one book, because if we're recommending books to people, mine, obviously, go buy it, please. That will mean a lot to me, you guys.
Yeah, it's the number one best book.
But if you guys want to read fucking a really funny fucking book, read Confederacy of Dunces. That is one of the funniest books I've ever read. I have never had to like a book like make me just like fucking like crack up. You don't like crack up at a book often,
Yeah.
But there are scenes from that book that will like still make me laugh to this day. So yeah.
What would you describe as like the style of humor in that book? Is that like farcical, or is it like more sly?
I'd say, let me think. It's this character, Ignatius, who he's just kind of this know-it-all asshole. And I guess it's kind of farcical. Like, he's just doing ridiculous things.
It's like a really
he's in
dumb
a movie
guy
theater
who thinks
watching
he's
a
smart.
movie. Yeah, and he is really smart, but he's just such an asshole. So there's one scene where he's in a movie theater and he's watching a film, and he's in a pirate suit because he's working for this like hot dog stand company and has left his post to go watch this movie. And he hates like everything he consumes because he thinks he's super above it. And so he's just screaming inside the theater at the screen, demanding that this lead actress get raped because he hates how bad her acting is, while the ushers are trying to pull him out. And I'm cold describing that to you, so it's not going to be that funny. But like reading that, it's so well written and so fucking funny because he's just screaming and he's got a hook hand and he's just punching the ushers back, and it's like ridiculous, you know. Never read a book like it, and I was super hyped after I finished it. I was like, I'm going to read the rest of this guy's books. Rest in peace to that motherfucker. He committed suicide like after that, so that book was not successful.
All right, well, it was great talking to you, Thomas, and everybody should buy Ashtray. It's pre-order right now. The link is available. You can click on the description of this video. You can click on that link, but if you can't even do that, it's mammothin.space. It'll be right there, very obvious for you. This is a real book. It's paperback. It's got a cover, front and back cover, designed by Slouch. How many pages are we talking here?
We're talking about 220. It's a pretty. I think you'll be able to get through it, my man. I know you're going to make excuses, but I think you'll have a good time.
All right.
It'll be fine.
I believe it too, and I'm going to read through this book. I've already got it ordered, and I'm going to be reading it as soon as it gets in the mail.
And I thank you for that. And I just thank you for doing the stream. Thank you for plugging it. I really appreciate it. In our stream for life.
All right, it was great talking to you, Thomas. Have a good one.
Adios.
All right, that was Thomas Mammoth, and he is the author of the book Ashtray, which you can see on the screen right here. It's got a cover by Slouch. A real book that you can order and receive in the mail. It's $20. Not a bad price. Not a bad price for a big old piece of media there. It's meaty. It's gonna last you a bit. Lots of cool things inside this book. We're going to be back talking more about books in a few minutes here. I'm just going to take a quick break so I can use the restroom. Take a brief rest. We'll be back in 5 minutes. All the music from the stream is from Nobey One. Also, the link to this album that I'm playing is in the description of this video. Nobey One, Bandcamp. This album is called Rest Stop Passing Through. So if you enjoy this album, you can download it from his Bandcamp. Okay, I'll be back in 5 minutes. Okay, we are back. We are talking books today on the call-in show. You can call in now, 518-288-7938. The topic is books. You know, I usually pick a topic that I know something about. Well, I shouldn't go that far. I mean, that I can bullshit about, at least. That I can pretend. This time, things are a little different this time. We're talking about books.
Call from
Hey, Dylan.
Dylan. Hello?
Hey.
Yo, we're talking books. What's up?
Hey, what's going on, man? Well, I got a few favorite books. Could give you some of those.
Let's hear them.
But, so one of them would be 1984 from George Orwell.
Classic book.
Yeah, and Animal Farm by him, too.
Also classic. I read a lot of 1984.
Yeah. I've been a long-time fan of yours, man. I just bought that T-shirt of the head bop.
Oh, hell yeah. Thanks, dude. All right. What is it about these George Orwell books? And before you say, I want to say a little piece of trivia here. George Orwell, Orson Welles. I think Orson Welles' first name is George. He's like George Orson Welles. What's the deal?
Oh, that's a good question.
All right, never mind. Forget that. Don't worry about it.
Maybe.
Oh, you know?
Well, he might have wrote under another name. I'm not sure, but I know that other people have done that, like Mark Twain.
What's
his name? See if he's any good. Mark Twain?
It's like Samuel Clemens.
That's true. He has a different name than Mark Twain, too, even. But
all right, anyway,
I was reading Huckleberry Finn by him, and I've never laughed so hard reading a book.
Because of what?
Okay, so he's like sneaking out of his house in the middle of the night, and they had like a slave on the property that was like up late at night watching the property, and he's like holding his breath because he realizes that he's about to see him, and then he's talking about how he has like an itch on his face, but he can't scratch it because then you'll hear him. So he's sitting there and like explaining that and like that feeling, and I just couldn't help it, man. It's hilarious.
So it's the
you have to read it for yourself, though.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be able to dictate it like Mark Twain.
This is a special part of books, is they can take these, minute moments that we all experience and turn them into a book.
Yeah, he had to sit there and wait for the guy to fall asleep. So,
all right.
And then when he did, they pranked him.
So what are you looking for in a book? When you're picking up a book, it's a new book. You start reading it. When do you tap out? When are you like, you know what? I don't like this book, or do you have to finish it before you decide?
Well, I noticed with movies that like you definitely have to finish it before you can judge it. And,
yeah, but I'll go into seek mode. I'll start pressing the right arrow key and go 5 seconds at a time. So if I don't like a movie, I'll just be like, oh, here's a scene with the woman. Just skip right past that. I don't need to see her boobs.
Right. Okay.
You don't have a similar feeling with books where you're like, this part's boring. I don't care about this.
Yeah, it does feel that way, especially if they got like a dialect you're not used to or something. I'm not one to read too many books, but I always try to read something that's like very highly rated because I don't like that feeling of like, oh, well, I bought this book and now I'm just going to put it in a pile of other books and not read it if I remember that it sucks, you know.
So you do actually try if you bought a book, you're gonna finish it?
It depends, man. Because sometimes you buy books to learn like a certain thing, and then other times you read them for enjoyment. So there's always
Yeah, I
that.
remember a time when I was on the train once. This is like 10 years ago, and there was a guy who was like he was an immigrant. I didn't, I just assume. I feel like I can tell, but he was weeping while he was reading a book. He was on the train and he's reading this book. He's got it in his lap and he's weeping full on like sobbing. And he would collect himself and then turn the page and just like immediately start weeping again. And the book he was reading was a Business for Dummies. You ever have an experience like that?
Out that he's fucked.
He's never gonna figure it out. It's like
my business is gonna fail.
My business is even someone worse than a dummy could run my business.
Was he holding it upside down by chance?
No, he was. I mean, it was hard to say whether he was reading it at all, but it was right side up. So, is there a book that gives you a really emotional response? Is 1984? You read that and you're just like, is it emotional or is it kind of an intellectual response of like, oh, I understand and I am worried about my world based on this book world, or is it an emotional thing?
I definitely like put myself in their shoes. So I usually, get emotional about it if it's an emotional book. And that's the type of book I like to read, like One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
So
you gotta put yourself in that situation where you're with a bunch of crazy people and you don't feel like you're crazy. You know?
How much of it is on the author and the writing, and how much of it is on the reader to get into that, like in a way that they can actually feel emotional about it?
Well, I think that you have to have like strong characters, because I feel like everybody can relate to a character if it's strong enough. If that makes any sense.
But do you think like you could be such a good reader that any book, no matter how stupid it is, you could feel it out and be in there?
I think you can reach anybody, because like really, they have books that are like technically for like teenagers, or and they can be pretty good.
Hunger Games?
Trying to think of a name. Well, yeah, I mean, that'd probably be a good example. I haven't read those. I watched those movies, but...
What's like a book that you've read that once the second you finish it, you're just like, overrated? Never.
Yeah,
You love books.
Well, in school, they made me read some books.
Like what?
But I'll be honest, like, there's a way to cheat around books.
Oh, yeah.
You can just, like, to write your reports and stuff, you can just read stuff on the internet about the book.
Oh, yeah. Easy. That's all I did. So you never forced yourself to read a whole book that you didn't like. If you were not liking it, you just either not read it, or if it was for class, you'd look it up.
Well, I'd say like my favorite book is probably The Outsiders.
Oh.
If you've ever read that.
I've read some of that. For school.
And like Matt Dillon, who played Daly in the movie, like that's who I was named after because of the movie. So I guess because I have a connection that way that I paid more attention to it. And that's actually why I started reading more books.
So where are you at now? What's the last book you read?
Huckleberry Finn was the last book I read.
Awesome. All right, nice.
Yeah.
So all the books that you've been talking about, like classic literature, you ever read like a modern book?
It's just hard for me to remember the names of them because they're just like Something in Darkness, or I don't know.
All right, well, hey, thank you for calling in.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Big fan. Take care.
Thanks, Ben. Have a good one. 518-288-7938. We're talking books. Who wants to shit on books? Could we just take just a second to shit on a book? Any book. We shat a little bit on Jodi Picoult. Remember seeing those books in mom's libraries?
Call from
Greyscale Peacock.
Greyscale Peacock.
Hey, yo, go! What's poppin'?
We're talking about books today. You read?
Oh, yeah. I love me some books. I used to read a fuck ton of books for fun in high school. But then once I got older, I just kind of... What?
For fun in high school?
Yeah, I went through a Stephen King phase. I read Carrie, and I couldn't put it down. I read it in like 12 hours. I couldn't stop reading it.
Ooh. That's a great experience.
Oh, yeah. It like keeps flashing forward to like the way he wrote it, it's like it keeps flashing forward to the future, and it's like something really fucked up happened, but you have no idea what it is, and like then you go back to the present, and it's just like this creeping dread, and I couldn't put it down.
Mm-hmm. But I mean, the feeling of being so wrapped up in a book that you can't even stop yourself. You gotta keep going.
Oh yeah.
When's the last time you had that experience?
That's like the only time where I literally couldn't put it down. I think that's the only time where it was like I'm not going to bed. I got to finish reading this. I think that's the only time where that happened was the first time I read Carrie.
But is that is that something that's particular to like a kind of thrillery type book where it's like, it's the excitement of it. It's the not knowing what's happening and trying to figure it out.
Yeah, like I never seen the movie and still haven't.
It's a great movie.
So it was. Is it?
Yeah, I love it.
Like the old one or the new one? I know there's two versions.
I haven't seen it. I haven't seen the new one. The old one is very great. It's got one of my favorite horror movie endings of all time.
It's got the book's got one of my favorite endings of all time. So if it's true to the book, then it's probably a banger.
Dude, what happens in the book at the end?
At the end of the book, they make her prom queen, and like there's this one girl who like actually genuinely wanted to help Carrie, and then like Carrie like locks the doors and like they drop pig blood on her, and she gets mad and she locks the doors and just starts killing people. But then she like goes on a rampage through the town and kills her mom, and then she finally confronts the girl that was actually trying to help her, and like she drops dead or something, or like someone kills her or something like that. It's been so long since I read it. And like the girl that was actually trying to help her is like one of the few people who survived, and she's just like traumatized, and like she's like someone that you see her perspective from in the future, like in the other parts of the book, like that she's gonna survive. So it's.
But she gonna become like a crazy person because she's so traumatized?
She's not gonna become a crazy person because she's so traumatized, but she's definitely like never the same ever again because like some supernatural shit went down and a bunch of people died.
Yeah, how are you going to explain that away? How are you just going to live your normal life after that?
Exactly.
All right, so that's cool. What are you reading now?
Yeah, but
okay, yeah. What do you want to talk about?
Well, I was thinking about like a few years ago. I was thinking about how I never had I stopped reading for fun, and I don't know. I kind of came in late on the stream. I only came in started listening when the guy was talking about the Bible. And I don't know if we discussed the pros and cons of audiobooks versus regular books.
Very minorly.
I gotta see what?
Just a little bit. We can keep going.
Oh, okay. Well, because I have a hard time like sitting still. It's not like ADC or anything like that. It's just like I just never learned how to sit still. And so reading books, I'll like pace around with the book, and so it's kind of difficult for me to do that. But there's one book where I'm like I was like, I'm going to read this like a physical book, and that's the Savage Tales of Solomon Kane, because it's a collection of novellas, little pulp novels of like this like pilgrim guy that's like this Protestant guy that just goes around like hunting demons and stuff. It's pretty cool. Or Frenchmen. Usually it's Frenchmen, and like the Frenchman like made friends with like a supernatural monster or something like that. You might remember this from the last time I called in. It was a few moons ago, but I really like 40K, and I kind of got sick of not actually reading any of those books. And so while I'm painting my minis and doing all that shit, I started listening to the audiobooks of Gaunt's Ghosts, which is like Band of Brothers in space.
Ooh.
It's a pretty because in 40K you got these things called commissars, and commissars are like political officers that are allowed to execute anybody for cowardice. And so normally when a commissar is introduced in one of these stories, he's usually a piece of shit. But Gaunt is actually a pretty chill dude, and like all of his soldiers are like from a planet that got destroyed by demons. And so like he just has like his set group of guys, and like everything he does is like he's just like genuinely good dude. So you get to see this guy who has like a lot of political power actually need to use it in clever ways and for like, you know, the safety of his men. So it adds to like a lot of cool confrontations with like a lot of inner drama between the different factions in the army. It's pretty cool.
So this is like something to provide a whole extra level of lore and backstory to something that you're already interested in.
Hell yeah. Because there's like hundreds and hundreds of books set in 40K. And my army that I picked was the soldier guys, the Astra Militarum, the guard. And Gaunt's Ghost is about the guard. So I'll be like sitting there painting my little guard man. And like I'm hearing a story about how a guard man like took down a demon with a flashlight. It, you know, it puts me in the mood for painting the minis, and then painting the minis puts me in the mood to listen to stories about them.
That's pretty cool. So you're able to, this is a sort of, I don't know if it's interactive, but there's some sort of interactive element there where you're not just hearing the story, you're engaged in it.
Hell yeah, exactly.
Do you think that's something there should be more of? That's something that's, it's been around for a while. I know there's a lot of like Star Wars books and Halo books. I mean, I don't know if those are on the same level as what you're reading, but like, is that something that you'd like to see more of, where you can dig deeper if you want into some sort of written word for something you're already interested in?
I think it's great. I think I do think that would be a great thing. I think different properties lend themselves to that better than others. Like Star Wars books, like the older ones, I bet, like, if I was really into Star Wars, like maybe some of the older books I probably could have gotten into. My brother read Fall of Reach back when he was playing Halo, and that gave him like a better appreciation for the Halo games. So yeah, I think it could work. I just think not every story is elevated by adding a book onto it.
So I happen to know that you are a talented musician. I happen to know that just off the top of my head. Would you ever think about doing something like that in the musical realm, where you could add to something, give it more depth through an album or something? Or are books more equipped to do that sort of thing?
It's funny you say that, because after that first album came out, we immediately started working on a concept album that we never finished about a space assassin. And the whole time we were writing this story and writing out this concept album, which might come out one day, but I don't know, it's a long ways away if it does, like this opera thing. The whole time we were writing the story, I was just picturing my head in an Odin comic book, like going along with it, like, like just following the story. Like you got a musical score set to like Bug Saga or something like that, like.
Oh yeah. Odin Odang Obi, the author of Bug Saga, a popular chunk property.
Hell yeah, very, very good shit. Very good shit. Love me some Odin comics. But like, I was just, the whole time I was thinking of like that, or like if Drew comics. Mm-hmm. I was just like, the whole time in my head I was picturing it as a comic book, because getting an animated movie would probably be way too expensive and probably wouldn't fit along with the album. You can't package a movie along with an album. That's kind of redundant. But you can package like a...
Are there books that you've read recently that are their own thing, or are you mostly reading things that are kind of supplementary?
The book I've been reading lately that is its own thing is Solomon Kane, but I only found out about it because they made a movie loosely based off of the books. Because Solomon Kane was like, what's the guy's name? Is it Robert Howard or something? They're like the guy who made Conan. He who wrote the Conan the Barbarian books. The other character he wrote a lot of was Solomon Kane, and
he's like a Christian, like, right? He's like a
He's a pulp. He's like the king of pulp fiction. He's like the king of short novellas where like a guy go on swashbuckling adventures.
I mean Solomon Kane in particular, the character. What is his?
Oh yeah. He's like a Christian guy who's like in his stories. There's not a lot of evidence that like God's real, but he's dealing with a lot of supernatural shit. And then like he'll like escape the situation or like vanquish the evil by the skin of his teeth, and he'll be like, yes, the Lord works in mysterious ways. And it's really great because you know, if you want to take that way, you could be like, oh, you know, God's helping him see this through, but like it's not as overt as the forces of evil getting like all this direct help from, you know, demons or supernatural creatures or whatever.
Mm. Yeah, I have my brother-in-law who loves that author. I feel like Robert Howard is the right name, but I don't know enough to say for sure. But yeah, I have a couple Solomon Kane collections because my brother-in-law gave them to me. So I should read that.
You read any of that?
No.
Oh, you should read that. But if you got the collection called The Savage Tales of Solomon Kane, that's all of his original books. That's every original pulp fiction book that he ever wrote, all wrapped up into one little package. I would recommend reading that. That's the one I'm working through right now, and it's short little novellas. So if you got like a hard time sitting down and reading a book, you can like knock a whole story out in an afternoon if you want.
Yeah. All right. Well, Greyscale Peacock, thank you so much for calling in.
Oh, thank you for taking my call. You have yourself a wonderful evening, good sir.
And to you, and goodbye.
Well, goodbye.
518-288-7938. We're talking about books. I'm sorry if I just I'm having a weird day. I don't know. I'm in a different zone. But I'm still doing this shit.
Anthony.
What? Anthony?
Hey.
What's up, bro?
Bro, first time making it on the show. I'm sorry if I sound nervous.
No, you sound fine. You sound great.
Oh, thank you. So,
you sound
books tonight,
breathy. Yeah, we're talking about books. You a reader?
You know, I've recently kind of been getting into it. I read a bit back in school, but definitely faded out of it. But the latest thing I just got done reading was the Three Body Problem series. It's by a Chinese author. I couldn't tell you the name, but it's a pretty good one. They got a series on Netflix now.
I've heard some pretty interesting things about this series, actually.
Yeah, if you're watching, I don't want to spoil it too much, but it's kind of like a answer to the Fermi's paradox of, you know, if there's so many aliens out there, where are they all at?
Mm-hmm. Dude, have you heard the behind the scenes drama around this?
No, I have not. Is it bad? Or
dude,
just gnarly? Or
it's
what?
Good. It's very good. This is what I learned yesterday. I learned this yesterday. Okay, there was a guy, and I forget his name, but he owned a company, and I forget the company's name also, but it was a game company in China. And this guy, after he made all his money making games, he decided his life's mission was going to be to get this series of books, The Three Body Problem, and turn it into the next global sci-fi sensation a la Star Wars or Dune, I guess. And what happened was, this guy hired, he's got a lawyer in his company. He says, you're in charge of adapting this, making this happen. I'm going to pay you $5 million a year. The guy did nothing after a couple of years. So he demoted this guy, and he's like, you know what? This is the most important thing right now, is turning this series of books into a movie or something. And you're doing shit work, so you're demoted. I'm going to hire someone else to get in charge of this. That guy who got demoted then poisoned his replacement and his boss.
Oh, my God.
And they died. They died of poison. And a day after the series came out on Netflix, I don't know if it's a movie or if it's a series. I actually don't know. I didn't get that far. The day after it came out on Netflix, the courts in China convicted this lawyer guy of murdering by poison his boss. He died, dude.
That's gnarly. You know what though? That's kind of hearing stuff like that coming from China. It doesn't seem too surprising. You know what I mean? It's like, you know what? I can kind of see something like that happening.
But so those are the stakes for how apparently good this series is. It's life and death. People's lives are on the line.
I mean, I'm a big fan of it, so I guess, you know, fools are out here killing over it. I can kind of see the hype of it.
So how's the Netflix shit? Have you watched that?
Yeah, it was good. You know, so like everyone's names in the books are Chinese names, so it took me a minute to kind of realize everyone's names in the series because, you know, they got some white names in there. So, I mean, that took a little bit of adjustment, but, you know, it's definitely a good watch.
Is it a movie or is it a TV
it's a series.
Show? Okay.
Yeah, it's a series. It's like, I think like hour-long episodes, if I remember right. But
so you give it the wreck. You give it the murder was worth it.
The murder was definitely worth it. I think it'll do better for the world.
Yeah, it seemed. I mean, I was reading this article. It seemed like a publicity stunt, poisoning.
No, definitely.
But he really
gnarly,
died.
But you know, giving us some good shows. I think it's definitely not a bad thing because I kind of do feel like, you know, at least entertainment-wise, we've kind of like hit the cap. You know, with so much Marvel and superheroes out, so I'm really kind of burnt out on that stuff. So it's nice to see something new and refreshing.
Yeah, it doesn't matter whose lives are at stake. I mean, whose Chinese lives are at stake, right?
I guess. But no, I did not hear about that until today. I learned something new.
Yeah, it's good stuff. Interesting. You know, you don't ever hear about. It's not like Harvey Weinstein. You know, it would be cool if he got poisoned or something. Like, you know, you don't ever hear about murders.
You know, it's definitely the guys who really deserve it seem to get away with it.
Well, it all worked out, so, you know, we can't complain. Hey, thanks for calling in.
Definitely not. Hey, thank you.
Have a good day. 518-288-7938. We're going to do a bit more. I feel bad because I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say about books. Like, I wish that I read books, but on the other side of things,
Call from.
I just don't want to. Hello?
Oh, shit. Hey, what's up, man?
Yo, dude, you're on the Books call-in show.
Hello. I've been a on and off viewer of you for quite some time.
Why off? What happened?
On.
Why'd you get off?
Why did I get on? Well...
No, why'd you get off? You said on and off.
Why did I get off? Sometimes I'm just out on the weekends, and that's kind of when I've been watching you.
It wasn't like something I said.
No, I don't get really offended by people, or at least I try not to, you know.
All right, so what about books? What do you think about books?
Well, about 8 months ago, I decided to look at my Audible account. If you'll consider audiobooks to be books, let me ask that question first. Okay,
yes.
Cool. And back when I got my Audible account, like years ago, I got a bunch of credits, and I don't know why, but a bunch of history books really interested me. And I got one about the early Spanish Inquisition of the South America kind of frontier or whatever you'd call that.
Yeah.
And basically the main book that I had got from it is called The River of Darkness. And it's about the first voyage from top to bottom of the Amazon River by like a documented expedition of it. And it's pretty cool. It's about like this Spanish dude, and this whole caravan of people that, you know, they're going off looking for El Dorado, which, interestingly enough, is like, it's not a city, historically speaking. Everybody thought that El Dorado was actually a dude, like a king, who used to take baths in gold. That's just kind of a weird tidbit, I guess.
Yeah, it's all I've ever known about El Dorado is like a mythical place full of gold. But you're saying it was actually, it was a man?
Well, they never confirmed exactly because it wasn't ever determined. But yeah, the first like myth was that it was a king who every morning, if I got this right, would like take a bath in gold because he was just that wealthy. And then that got twisted from whether it be like failed translations or just, you know, people saying like, oh yeah, it's a whole city filled with gold. And that was actually a really interesting thing I learned from the book, is that kind of the native people of South America kind of at gunpoint from the Spanish, where they're saying, where's the city of gold? You're not going to tell that person no. You're going to be like, oh yeah, it's over here. And then you're going to mislead them for 1,000 miles and then run off in the jungle so you don't die. So that was an interesting, really interesting book, River of Darkness. And these dudes basically go off. They don't know, because nobody knows the Amazon River, right? At this point in time, it's undocumented. And they kind of got themselves up a creek or down a creek, to make a play on words. And then, yeah, they get lost and screwed up in a bunch of ways and end up going like, I don't know how many hundreds of miles it ended up being. But yeah, it's really cool.
It sounds a lot like a movie that I enjoy a lot by Werner Herzog called Aguirre, the Wrath of God. It was about Spanish conquistadors who are traveling down the Amazon River in search of El Dorado.
Oh, I didn't even know that was... You said that was a movie called The Wrath of God?
Yeah, it's called Aguirre, the Wrath of God.
Aguirre, the Wrath of God. Interesting. Okay, cool.
Very, very cool movie, and sounds like a very similar premise. And that's a good premise for any sort of entertainment. It's like a mythological place that, you know, the colonizers are like, ah, yes, the gold, give me the gold. And they're just kind of led down a winding river towards their death.
Yeah. Well, actually, a lot of them did die, but some people survived, which, I mean, obviously, to have the historical account of, you'd need to survive, which kind of spoils the ending of this, you know, book where you know people make it, but...
so this book that you're talking about is actually a historical account.
Oh, yeah, and that's like... You start slipping into all the political reasons for why they wrote the book, which is also kind of clever. Imagine you're this guy and you're going down the river, and then you get separated from like your commander, and you tell your commander, hey, I'm going to come back in 2 weeks upriver after finding us food. But then you get swept off because of currents and stuff. Well, your commander survives, and he's kind of a hot-headed political guy, and he's like, oh, well, they abandoned us, so we're going to go back to town, you know, hike back up the river after months, and we're going to persecute the guy that abandoned us. Well, the main guy who ended up getting swept down the river, he didn't really abandon them. He just couldn't paddle a canoe up the Amazon River after being swept away 200 miles. Right. So he miraculously is living for months and I think years, I don't remember exactly, just making his way through like all the native lands that are trying to kill him and everything. And all the while, he's like, if I do make it back to civilization, the people are going to think that I either killed my commander because he doesn't know if his commander is actually alive, or if his commander is alive, he's going to say, oh, you abandoned us, you know, hang him or whatever, right? Mm-hmm. So he gets this like, I don't remember the term, it's like a scribe, like a dude just writing down stuff, right? He's like, okay, you have to document everything we do, why we do it, little pats on their own backs of like, look, we set up a bunch of crosses and, you know, churches and stuff as we went. So, yeah, it was done from like a self-defense perspective. like his recounting is like, as much you could say, a recorded proof of what he did, that it wasn't his fault.
He's covering his ass.
Exactly, yeah. CYA, cover your ass. So.
All right, well, hey, thank you for calling in. That sounds like an interesting read.
Yeah, it's cool. Thanks for having me, man.
All right, have a good one.
Appreciate your show.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I always hang up on people as they're saying nice things. Okay, we're going to take a quick break here. We'll come back. We'll do one last little bit here with call-ins, but after this will be the last part of the show. We're going to listen to one more song by Nobey One. The link to all the music in this stream is in the description of this video, so if you're interested in that, click on that link. It's the link to the Bandcamp where Nobey One's music is. This album is called Rest Stop Passing Through. We'll be back in 2 minutes and 20 seconds with the last portion of the stream. Be right back. Okay, we are back. This is the final portion of the stream. We are talking about books. The call-in number is 518-288-7938. And we're just talking about books, you know. If you got a book wreck, if you want to shit on books, it's been all pro book so far. No one's called in and said, hey, books, what a bunch of BS those are.
Call from
D.
D?
Yes. Hello?
Hello, we're talking about books.
Hey, what's up, man? Let me mute the TV so I don't get an echo. Hey, cool. Hey, what's up, man? I have been watching your animations and audio plays for a while and really enjoying them. And I've read a lot of books. A lot of books.
Nice.
Yeah, the irony is, though, so I'm 43, and I may have actually read, like, quadruple digits books, but I just don't anymore. And it's not that I don't read, it's that I read more than ever, but it's online. So it's like, you know, you ask this question of, like, yo, our books are still good, and I'm like, well, yeah, but I think it's like it's becoming more a discussion of writing, and is writing good? And then we can talk about formats and nostalgia, and that's cool, too, but...
What's your thought then? Is writing good?
Yeah, that's what I ask. Listen, I hate to say it, but I've seen some commercials for dumb shit that had better writing than long books with high ratings. And I mean, I know it's like, you know, it's a viewer's opinion, but, you know, I've studied this stuff a lot. I'm an artist. I've been a writer. I used to write poetry. I've done a little theater. So I've got a developed opinion. And it's just like, you know, I think everybody's seen that sort of thing. Like, wow, that was a really clever, dirty limerick in the bus terminal. And then you're like in school, maybe reading a textbook is the most boring crap. And one of them has a price tag on it. So it's like, for me, as a creator, it's a weird question. Because, like, I've wanted to write a book, but I feel like you're hitting an audience mostly that isn't kind of a now audience. You know, I think people who read books frequently are getting older and older. And, you know, as obviously people are still reading books, but I think it's like we don't have as much time. There's more going on. I'm sorry. I should give you say something here because I can go on forever, man.
Well, this is an interesting point, though. So is the idea that, like, you can find great writing without reading a book, and it's not necessarily someone's written a book that makes it great writing?
Yeah, you know, and then if you start talking about things like improv style spoken word, including like freestyle rap, I hate to say it, but some of the coolest things I've ever thought of, I'll never remember because it was just something I said to someone in a really clever moment. And I hate getting in the habit of like, I got to write down everything because then you like start missing life. I was in a photo in college and I started to realize that every time something cool happened, I wasn't experiencing it because I was trying to capture it. And I don't know, it's like somebody's thinking about creating or writing. My tip to you, 80% of what you make, you shouldn't give a shit about. Like, I'm in the kitchen singing little dumb songs, and they come out really good. But if I thought about recording it every time, then you let go of that freedom of creative flow. So I think a lot of writers probably spend a lot of time writing crap on a napkin. You know what I mean?
What do you think is the... Assuming that the motivation for a writer who's writing books isn't just that, like, I have to do this and I have to appease my publisher or something, I have a deadline or something, what do you think is the difference between just having an interesting thought versus I'm going to sit down and write a whole book about this?
You know, I've thought about that a lot. And I like to see, I'm in this place of arguing, and I think as creative tools are becoming more accessible and self-publishing, and you can see I'm going to go somewhere with self-publishing here, more and more people are artists. So if there's this thing, well, if everybody's an artist, then no one is, right? And I'm like, I'm calling that bullshit. Okay, it's all about this take our jobs thing. I think if we want this AI future crap, I'm paraphrasing here, living wage for everyone, then you can talk about that artist life. Because, y'all, I'm an artist. I live in a ghetto comfortably, but I've been homeless many times, and a lot of times because, you know, I was raised amongst Gen X, and they're like, don't sell out. And I just stuck with that, and now I'm hearing more and more about music distribution companies, any kind of creatives are just getting into contracts. They don't realize they're not going to really get paid. Because if you don't make a mass threshold, like if you're not PewDiePie, you ain't making no living wage. And, you know, so my thing is, like, people are increasingly oversaturated in the media market. And I have to say, if you want to put an artistic mind to it, 99% complete garbage. I mean, we all are in here in YouTube and whatnot. We find what we want, and the algorithm gives us stuff. But if we look through, we'd be like, what? Because I've tried. You know, just go to YouTube's main page. You're going to throw up. It doesn't matter who you are. It's so popular, nobody likes it because it's just drivel. So it's like, you know, it's like a funny joke right now with these AI content farms. They're not making fucking money. That's not a career. You know what I'm saying? So what people are starting to realize is that a distinction of create something strongly creative from a human mind is what stands out, and it doesn't matter the format. And so, you know, ironically, you know, I have to say some of the best literature, stories, jokes, short films that I've seen in my life, and I went to art school, I've been looking at this crap, I've been to a ton of concerts, all kinds of crap. It's been here on YouTube by people who weren't making careers, that just threw up a few cool ideas on some channel that went dead, just floating out there. I love to collect that stuff because it inspires me. And there's this whole thing where they say, if you follow what you love, you're going to make money on it. Well, talk to people who've tried to sell books and crap. And then what it comes down to, I'm going to say everybody should self-publish now. It may be harder. Go make a website. Don't base yourself out of fucking Instagram. Not even YouTube. YouTube's like less, like we don't talk about how Google's less sleazy than Meta and all that. Sure, they screw up, but they do listen when we yell at them enough. Other companies are like, fuck you. No, we're not changing. It's just going to keep it getting worse. Here's some more damn ads. And we're like, well, that's how it is. So don't let them make you numb to that. You know what I'm saying? But the bottom line is research a platform. Research everything before you get a contract and see who's actually getting paid. And yeah, I think it's this self-publishing thing. And so I guess I'm talking about making books. And yeah, they have a place, but you know what? I think the future of books is actually film. If I had to say where I think that's going.
Film? Not books.
Yeah, well, you know how much...
The future of books is
people,
not books.
Well, okay. Think about how many people watch a video with captions these days. They did research. Most people are doing it.
True. So do you think that people who want to write books, like it shouldn't be I don't want to use this word gatekeeping because I don't really know what that means, but like there's something there of like you don't have to be a writer who's just like that's your whole thing is like you're put on this earth to write books. Like you might just be a writer in a less universal sense, and you should just write something and self-publish it, regardless of whether you think of yourself as an author.
Yeah, absolutely. And you should tell all those voices that tell you it's going to suck and no one's going to care to fuck right off. Just do it. And if you fail, you're not going to regret not trying. But here's the thing. If it's really heartfelt and you're not trying to cater to, I got to make the buck, I got to get the contract, I need the most clicks, don't go for the most views. This will kill your creativity. You want, like what you've got going here is a curated and engaged, returning, audience, and it's like part of the art. I've seen a few YouTubers pull this off. That's the goal, man. You want to stay in the game? Steady and dedicated, and don't sell out, don't fake out, no scams, no lies. Research, if you're going to get ads on research what you're selling. Don't just buy into this model they're trying to sell, because it all goes back to the educating people to work in a factory way the hell back in the 19th century. I've researched the history of institutions after art school fucked up my life, right? Most people go to art school, don't go on to a career. You end up catering. I was in fine arts. You end up catering to an audience that is the hyper rich, and they trade your life story and paintings like it's trading cards, and they just love it when you OD and die and shit like that.
That makes the value of your work skyrocket.
Oh, yeah. They love the suffering artist. So fight that. If the art's killing you, then something about it's going wrong. And you got to find the way it's healthy for you. Don't push to overproduce. Yes, regular, but it's that steady. It's that steadiness. You don't want to hit burnout.
How might one actually, like, because it seems like what you're talking about, like a significant portion of that is having an audience to talk to. So how do you build that audience? If you're a guy who's if you're just a guy who's writing books, I mean, like, I'm a guy on YouTube who does audio stuff. So, I've got an uphill battle, but I've been doing it for a really long time. If you're just a guy who's writing books and the requirement for engaging with your art is a lot higher than mine even. Mine is higher than someone who's making videos, but like for someone who's writing, you got to have an audience that's willing to engage with it and like read it and put it in their imagination. How do you do that if you're starting with nothing?
Well, I mentioned I've been through some hard times. I'm kind of starting over. It's really weird because I'm in the same job market as like younger people and I'm facing the same issues. I got some experience. I know how to spot a lot of the more common scams to take in your time and energy. But it's hard because when you don't want to sell out, then it's all you. You got to claw your way up. Mm-hmm. And I know what I found, though. See, I'm actually, I'll say writers, creators, diversify. Don't just do one thing. See, I'm also an amateur radio DJ on a nonprofit channel. Mm-hmm. Co-hosting a dark wave show. I like to try to make it very varied. They were like, oh, creative freedom. It's dark-ish. So I've even slipped some vaporwave and death grips in there while it's the goth music. Mm-hmm. But So what I found is that I got into that gig and that I have any kind of engaged fan base because I kind of one-to-one. It's that human connection. You know, there's so much art out there, but when they meet you, when you're like, this is my art, you know, that you could literally just be standing somewhere and show them what you're doing on your phone. It's going to create a meaningful memory. It's almost like that event was a piece of art at that moment for them, and then they'll go look at your stuff later. So I think what we need to do as we're finding our way is to look for that human element. And I know it's like we may have to make concessions to make money, or we like legit. I'm paying to make art right now, you know, and it's a little bit paying due, but I'd be miserable otherwise, you know. And be willing to be endurant, be willing to fail, be willing to hit writer's blocks. I had a creative block of 17 years. I am not kidding you. I went wandering through the country and experiencing instead, and I guess eventually I got through some of my issues and found inspiration. You know, I've been almost like 2/3 of the state in this country, you know, and met a lot of people. People are great inspiration. You want to write, meet people. There's a tip.
So you can't just if you that's an interesting point though. If you do want to write, you can't just be consuming other media. You need to find like some sort of real life experience to draw from.
Yeah, and they always say start with your life. You know what I mean? And if there's not much to write about, then go live a bit. See, I got too much to write about, and I'm recovering from all the hard living I did, and it was like extreme good, extreme bad. I can tell you some of those beautiful stories and shit that might not even be ethical to write as a horror story. So it's like, I got plenty of inspiration. Now I'm just trying to buckle down and focus on what I'm doing.
All right, well, man, thank you for calling in. Good to hear from you.
Yeah, keep making the work, man, because that radio drama stuff, I actually kind of want to slip some on the radio.
Nice.
If you're cool with that.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Do whatever you want. I don't care.
All right, I'll pick out some of your better skits from the last few years.
Thank you. All right. Have a good one, dude.
Yeah.
Get right
Call
into
from
this.
Joe.
Joe.
Yo, what's good?
Yo, Joe, we're talking about books today.
Nice. It's a really nice grill you got there.
Thank you. What books? What is books?
Oh, it's a mighty fine question you have there. What is book? Book read.
Book read good?
Read book good. Yeah.
Book read.
I'm glad we can combine that.
Good for you, but bad for me?
Ooh, read book me good. Bad book good.
You
me
book
you.
like good, which is good. But what about book for book? Book. I'm sorry. Let me start over.
Oh, you got it.
What's a book you like?
Most recently, I finished, it's a comic, but Invincible. It's on Prime, the TV show, but I read the comic. It's great.
What is it? Invincible with Mark Wahlberg?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh.
Yeah.
What
Mark
is it?
Wahlberg, he's the main character. Mm-hmm.
What is it?
It's like like you're like Superman, Spider-Man kind of a thing, but it's like a third-party comic book writer made it, and it's the guy who made The Walking Dead. But it's great. It's good, deep characters. They're challenged by I don't know. They overcome stuff. Pictures are pretty. Words are good. It's great. It's inspiring.
What is it? So, what's it do for you? Like compared to other media? Why is Why is it special?
All right. Well, I think it's special because like they managed to write a character that regardless of like the mistakes that he makes, I relate with him. Or kind of lose track. I'm like, you fucked up, but like also I see why you fucked up.
So, I mean, like a good protagonist, I think. Invincible Mark Wahlberg, we'll call him. Book's good, for sure. I don't know, I feel like it's kind of like forces us to be a little introspective. We're reading in our inside voices, and, forces us to use our imagination a little bit. Buy good book.
Okay, so you got to do more. You got to put more effort in, but it's worth it.
Listen, man, I'm the video game guy.
Let's talk for real for a fucking second. What's better, games or books?
Low key, like better for me, games.
Yeah.
For sure, yeah.
Not even close, right?
It's not even close.
Dude, why even calling into the book stream?
Why even call into the book screen? I gotta go play my gotcha game. I gotta make big number bigger. Really light up that dopamine
Click the
in
buttons.
my brain.
There's no buttons to click in a book. Would that be a better book?
I mean, listen, I work with kids with special needs. We have buttons in our books.
That sounds great.
I wouldn't say that they're better books, though.
But what if you took that technology and applied it to The Lord of the Rings?
Oh, shit. I think it has to be done. I don't see any other way.
I always liked, when I was a kid, those like Goosebumps, Choose Your Own Adventure books. Because so many of the choices you had would result in you being, murdered in a horrible way. It's exciting.
Yeah, that is exciting. I mean,
it's like a button you could press. Be like, I pressed the wrong button, and I'm about to read about my horrible, gory death.
You can't really skip to the end with those either, though. Like, you can't just turn to the last page because you got to make decisions. So
it's true. It is confusing.
It's confusing. You can't just spoil them.
All right. Well, hey, thanks for calling in.
Yeah, of course. Anytime.
All right. You have a good day. Bye. Dude, the books calling show. I'm losing it. We're going too far. I'm going to take one more call. 518-288-7938. Books. Somebody's got something to say about books. Please. If nobody has something to say in the next 10 seconds here, we're just okay. Here we go.
Call from.
Hello?
Yeah, hello.
Yeah, we're talking books today.
Fantastic. I love books.
Well, what do you love about books?
I don't know. I've always had a love for books. I've always loved the written word. I've always thought it's very valuable. I like to collect books more than I read them. A lot of the time I listen to audiobooks because it's just more accessible. But I think a lot of people should own a few books they think should be passed down, possibly. Because as far as audiobooks go, they're all good and nice, but I'm a little paranoid, so you never know if the planet will go through some big old electromagnetic pulse event where all of our electromagnetic, all of that power infrastructure is just destroyed.
An atmospheric detonation of a nuclear weapon?
Who knows?
Easily destroy the tech of the world. So books with words in them is better.
Yes. It's not better. Everything has its value, but I feel like we've forgotten the value of physical books a lot.
Yeah. So are books for you a thing? It's like, you go out into the woods and you bring a good book with you, but you're not really reading it in the thick of society where you've got games and TV shows? Or are you a book guy through and through?
Mm-hmm. I can't say I guess I consider myself a book guy. I just value the written word a lot. And depending on how I maybe I'll sit down and read a book every now and then, but it's not typically what I do. Usually I listen to audiobooks at work just because I feel like I can get a lot more done. I don't have a job where I have to focus too hard, so nice. I could absorb some audiobooks during that time, but I like to collect books more than anything, and even make books. I've bound a few books myself, and it's a really interesting process, and I feel like kind of one of those things that's becoming a lost art and becoming more or less just factory work for companies to, not a lot of people buy books.
So you've got books almost as like a historical artifact.
Yeah, I collect things like, I got the collected dialogues of Plato and Marcus Aurelius and Tibetan Book of the Dead and Bhagavad Gita and things like that I think should be, preserved and transmitted.
But you also have a side of you that's like, no one's going to read this shit unless the world is nuked.
Yeah, that's very true. It's mostly just kind of how I am. I definitely see what you're saying. That's definitely true.
I mean, hey, I'm not presenting this as true. That's just my thought. As like,
I can agree with you on that for sure.
Yeah.
Because hell, I rarely read the shit. So,
what do you think about my idea of the blank page book? You just own one book with 100 blank pages, and then your AR goggles project the book text on the page.
Oh, yeah, I love that idea. I've always had the idea that in the future we're going to live in very minimalistic AR apartments where you can change your paint job and do all that shit. No, I think that's definitely possible. I think that's definitely in our future.
Like everything's blank. You just project your idea of what would be a nice apartment on top of your shitty all-white apartment.
Exactly, and everybody forgets they're living in a shitty, cheap apartment.
That'd be great. You got any book recs for the gang here? Are we talking about the Tibetan Book of the Dead, or like are these the top books on your list?
Don't read that.
Okay. What's something we can all get behind?
I always like the Meditations of Marcus Aurelius. Is a really good read.
It's like some philosophy stuff, or what?
Yeah, philosophy, kind of Stoic philosophy.
What about that? What about that is appealing?
I think a lot of what is in Stoic philosophy is missing in a lot of people nowadays. There's a lot of complaining and a lot of just dissatisfaction and wanting and a lot of that in society nowadays, and not a lot of people really just accept and make the best out of their situation and really take control of what they actually can take control of. A lot of people are always pointing outside of themselves, complaining about problems, playing the victim, and never really take the weight of their own lives on their shoulders. And I feel like Marcus Aurelius is an accessible read for that kind of way of thinking and way of living, to kind of learn that.
All right, cool. Is a book rec from what, 5,000 years ago?
Maybe roughly. So I have no idea. I'm terrible at time.
2,000, 3?
Couple thousand years ago.
Yeah.
Couple thousand years ago. Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for calling in.
Yes, sir. Appreciate it.
Good to hear from you. Have a good one. Okay, that's going to be the call-in show. I apologize to all the sincere book readers out there who I didn't meet their expectations, because I don't know what to say. I'm not a book guy. I like the idea of books. Obviously, I have a publishing company, I guess I can say, Chunk. We put out comic books, though. It's different, I've always loved comic books. You can look at them before you read them. You can look through the whole book and then be like, do I want to read this? After I've seen everything, yes or no. Anyway, It's been the Books Call-In Show. We talked about books. I didn't contribute anything in particular. We're doing this, and we can see on the screen here, Ashtray by Thomas Mammoth. Very talented writer who is the guy who makes the YouTube channel Mammoth in Space. He wrote a book. It's got a cover and a back cover by Slouch. So if you enjoy work by either of these guys, you will enjoy this book. You can find the link to buy that book in the description of this video. It's mammothin.space. Not sure if this will be available digitally at some point, but what you'd be buying right now is a very physical book, which is a cool thing to have, obviously. Paperback, said it was about 220 pages. Thank you, everyone who's listening, and thanks for calling in. I don't know. Next week or the week after, we'll be doing a different topic. Something I know something about. Maybe? I don't know. Anyway, I do appreciate everyone who called in and who listened today. All the music from the stream is from Nobey One. That's also in the description of this video if you're interested in downloading the music from this album, Rest Stop Passing Through. It's all by Nobey One. We'll be playing one more song here, and then we'll be closing out the stream. So thank you to everyone who called in and listened, and have a great weekend. Bye.
Wow.